your Indian consumer. Hey consumers, it's me Prasad Vedpathak, your Indian consumer, back with another video. As we all know that the vlogging community is growing day by day, so today I battle off two vlogging cameras. So on one side I have the Canon G7X Mark II, which is considered to be a great vlogging camera, but yes, it comes with a price. And on the other side we have the Nikon A900, which is almost half the rate of this camera. So let's battle them off and find out that buying a Nikon A900 and saving some of your money is really worth it or no. So before starting the battle, let me tell you this complete video you will observe to be in 1080p resolution at 60 frames per second. That is the maximum you can get from the Canon G7X Mark II. But the Nikon A900 on the other hand is capable of shooting 4K videos at 30 frames per second. If you want to see that sample video, you will get it in the I button. Well, now let's begin the battle. So firstly, let's talk about the build quality, the form factor and the design. So as you can see, they're almost similar in size. Now one thing which you cannot see here is the Nikon camera is just a bit bigger from this end when you compare it with the Canon G7X Mark II. If you compare the build qualities, obviously the Canon G7X Mark II feels much solid. It has this ring which can be rotated in order to zoom. Now that again is a nice hardware feature. Along with that, both the cameras come with the NFC and Wi-Fi feature, so that adds to the functionality. Apart from that, the best part of both the cameras is the flippable screen. Yes, now both these cameras come with a flippable screen, which we vloggers love, right? So yeah, you get that feature in both these cameras, so that is a good thing. Well, when we talk about the microphones, the Canon G7X has the microphone on the top here, which is really nice to reduce the wind noise, whereas the Nikon A900 has the microphone right here at the front. So when you're recording from back, I don't know how the video quality will sound. We'll have to check that in our video test. But before proceeding to the video test, there is one more thing which needs to be mentioned here. The screw holes on these cameras are differently placed. Now this one is the G7X Mark II. You can see the screw hole right in the center, whereas on the Nikon A900, it is here on the left end. I really don't know why Nikon has done that. Maybe because removal of the battery becomes really easy, but I'll just show you what happens. Now that looks odd, right? Whereas on the Canon G7X Mark II, it is right in the center. Yeah, it just gives a promising feel to it. Looking at the overall build quality of the two, looking at the dials, buttons and everything, the Canon G7X is the clear winner here. Now let's take a quick look at the most awaited thing, which is the video test. So let's quickly do a video test. So right now the conditions are sunny and even there is quite a bit of wind. So this camera that you see here right now is the Canon G7X Mark II and this one is the Nikon A900. So well, you can judge this footage based on the exposure change, the stability. Well, you can observe the stability right now because I'm walking, and even the focus. Let's do the exposure test right now. So you can see the image on the G7X Mark II is already a bit brighter. I hope that gave you an idea of the exposure switch. The image on both the devices looks quite different. You can observe the difference in the saturation and the sharpness. Also the contrast levels on the Nikon look a bit higher and the clarity on the G7X looks a bit sharper. Now let's do the audio test. The audio you're listening to right now has been recorded using the G7X Mark II and the audio that you're listening to now has been recorded using the Nikon A900. The Canon G7X, yes, definitely gives a better video quality, but the availability of this camera is a huge question mark, at least here in India. Now let's check out the audio when you're not facing the camera. So the audio you're listening to right now has been recorded using the G7X Mark II, and now the audio that you're listening to has been recorded using the Nikon A900. And if I get really close to the camera, you can observe a nice bokeh effect on the G7X Mark II, and a similar bokeh effect is not observed on the Nikon A900. Now let's test the face detection autofocus. Yeah. So while I was recording this video, the battery on the A900 died midway. Like the G7X Mark II still has more than half the juice left, and the A900 is already dead. So now let's do a low light test of the two cameras. So you can see the images side by side, and in the night test it is clearly evident that the G7X Mark II is much better. Thanks to the 1.8 aperture on the G7X Mark II, you can see the image on the Nikon A900, which is not at all impressive when you compare it with the G7X Mark II, of course. Let's just step into the street yellow light and see how it performs. Right now I'm on the street under the yellow light. I have one yellow light incident on my face right now, and you can see the difference. The difference is clearly evident. I'm sure that gives you a clear idea. So as you saw, there is a considerable difference between the video quality of the two cameras. Well, the Nikon A900 struggles in focusing at times. At times Nikon 900 does tend to lose the focus. The focus shifts from your face to the background, and you cannot switch it manually because the screen is not the touchscreen types. Whereas the screen on the Canon G7X is the touchscreen type. You can directly tap the screen and get back the focus on your face, but surprisingly, you don't need to do that most of the time with the Canon G7X because it has an amazing focus, amazing face detection autofocus on this camera. Not just that, the Canon G7X Mark II also gives you face detection and storage. So you can store 11 different faces on this camera and it will identify that person by its name. That's simply amazing. Now let's talk about the audio quality on both these cameras. So as we saw that the Nikon A900 has the microphone at the front. So that is really an odd place to place a microphone for a vlogging camera. A camera that is dedicated for vlogging should have a microphone on the top, because it is not always that you're facing the camera. You also tend to take shots in this manner, and when you're doing this with this camera, with the Nikon A900, the audio is really bad. So again, based on audio, the Canon G7X Mark II is a clear winner. I have liked the audio on this camera much more than the Nikon A900. One thing which I need to mention here, this is a part of the hardware. Both these cameras don't give a port for an external microphone. So one thing to consider. Now if we talk about the features on both these cameras, both of them offer almost identical features, just the major difference being the touchscreen on the G7X Mark II. Yes, and I'm loving it. Apart from that, there aren't much differences. Well, if we talk about the interfaces provided on both these cameras, definitely the Canon interface is much more sophisticated. It looks better. The interface on Nikon looks a bit primitive when you compare it with Canon. Canon's interface is much more sophisticated. It is much more colorful. So it is in a way pleasing to the eye. And yes, it is very, very user friendly. Can't say a similar thing about the Nikon interface though, but people who are familiar with Nikon cameras will be comfortable using it. Although I've been using a Nikon DSLR for the past 2 years, I somehow did not like this interface. Now finally, let's talk about the most interesting thing, that is the price of these cameras. The Nikon A900 is available for 20,000 rupees, whereas the Canon G7X Mark II is almost double its price. Yes, this camera is available for around 40,000 rupees. 40,000 for a point and shoot, advanced point and shoot, I'll say. Is it worth it? Yes, definitely, it is worth it. If you're vlogging, if your primary goal is to vlog with the camera, you should opt for the Canon G7X Mark II. Of course, you will have to chip in some more money, but trust me on this, it is worth it. Well, and if you cannot chip in that much of a hefty amount, and if you want to buy a vlogging camera in the range of 20,000 rupees, there are some other options mentioned below in the description, so don't forget to check those options out before buying this camera, the Nikon A900. Well, that's it from my end for today. I hope this video was useful. If you have liked this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. If you have not liked it, don't be shy to dislike it. This was Prasad Vedpathak, your Indian consumer, signing off, and I'll catch you in the next one. Till then, do remember to surf before you swipe, and if you don't need, you don't buy. Bye bye. Let's vlog.